days for the club at Bradford Park Avenue. But it's an absolute pleasure to be here to introduce the new management team going forward for season 2019-2020. Firstly, on my right here, Garry Thompson, well known to the Bradford City fraternity here in Bradford, and to myself personally, having worked with Garry previously. Garry will be player manager for 2019-2020. And further on my right, Sean Gardner. Sean will be player assistant. He's well known to Garry and comes down as a coach, assistant, as I said, to join us, both in the playing squad and in the management staff. So, again, we've had a busy day at Bradford Park Avenue. We've obviously had a management change, and it's a very exciting time for the club to be going forward. It's been a good 3-year period for the club. We went on record earlier today to thank Mark Bauer for his time at the club as a manager. He did a sterling job. But it was time for change, and we mutually agreed with Mark to make that change. The club has had, as I said, a good 3 years, but really we haven't progressed a lot off the pitch or in terms of growth in that 3-year period, and that's not a comment on the playing performance or coaching performance at all. It's just that we need to look at doing things differently, with a different approach and a more innovative approach, to give us the best chance at what we call success, sustainable success, because many clubs around the leagues are changing the way they do things. If you keep doing the same thing over and over for the same result, it's the definition of madness, and we're certainly not tasked here at Bradford Park Avenue to keep doing that. So again, it's a great pleasure to introduce you to Garry and Sean. Any questions from the floor there?
Garry, how did the move first come about?
Well, firstly, I'd just like to say it's an exciting and an opportunity that I couldn't turn down more than anything else. Always see myself as a football player first and foremost, but as time comes to us all, you have to think about that next step. And this is a great opportunity for me to be able to do both sides. I've known Damian a long time. We were together at Notts County and then later on at Wycombe. And when I got the phone call from Damian to think about it, I didn't really need much in terms of a thought process in what I want to do. Like I say, I've worked with Damian, I trust him with everything that he says moving forward, and yeah, it was an offer that I couldn't turn down. So yeah, it's exciting. It's what's the word? Exciting. It's just exciting. That's it. I can't think of any other word to say. I just can't wait to get started. And as regards to Sean, first and foremost, he's a great friend, and to combat that, he's a superb coach moving forward, and somebody that also expresses a desire to improve himself as a footballer as well. So when the decision came to make this move, Sean was the first person I rang, and I'm just absolutely delighted that he wants to come on this journey with us.
What do you make of the current squad? Because obviously there's a lot of young, exciting, impressionable players like Lewis Knight, Alex Hurst and Connor Branson.
Of course, yeah, and I'm hoping that I can bring them on as footballers first and foremost. I've been in the game a long time. I've got a wealth of experience behind me. I've been lucky enough to play, in the Championship, and I'm hoping that I can pass my experience on to them guys as a teammate and as a manager. I don't have any restrictions when somebody walks onto the football pitch. I want them to express themselves and have no barriers when they walk out onto the football pitch, and I'm hoping that, with my support and my guidance, that they can go out onto the pitch and do that.
Obviously we're in the off season. Have you met any of the squad yet?
No, I've not had a chance yet. It's been a bit of a whirlwind, like Damian said, last sort of 24, 48 hours. But I've been making contact with them, and yeah, introducing myself and yeah, really just getting them on how I want to play and what my foresight is for the season and things moving forward. But like I say, it's exciting. We've got to build a squad, and I think with them 3 or 4 guys that have already got signed on, it's definitely a positive start.
And then it's an exciting time to be a Bradford Park Avenue supporter. They've been in the playoffs the last 2 years. Obviously they suffered defeat against Spennymoor this season, but as we say, there's a real strong nucleus of the side, and with your experience, you know, well, how far could you take them?
Well, that's a $1 million question, I suppose, isn't it? I'd like to think, like I say, with my experience, first and foremost, you know, playing on the pitch, that will make up for my inexperience in being a manager. But, you know, everybody has to make that step at some time, and like I say, I couldn't think of a better club to come to. Like you say, on the back of you know, 2 good seasons, you'd say that playoffs is a good season. I'm hoping with my experience and my history in playoffs, I can bring that experience that might take us on to the next level. And like I say, hopefully with my experience and things like that, we can do that together. It's something we're going to thrive on and build towards as a club moving forward. And you know, I'll have the support of Damian, who will help me every step of the way and help us both in scenarios and things like that. But I've played in football clubs that have been up against it before. You know, as Damian mentioned when I first went to Wycombe, you know, like I say, it's about doing it as a team as opposed to individuals, and I think that's how you get the best out of every individual, is by putting them in that team environment. And it's about, you know, working hard for the man on your left and the man on your right, not just about yourselves. Obviously everyone wants that personal glory, but you can do that from within a team setting, and that's what first and foremost is my thing to my players. It's about the team first and foremost. It's a challenge. I've been challenged every step of the way in my professional career. You know, I've been told by umpteen people that I've not been good enough, and I sit here in front of you now, having played over 750 career games. So, you know, when people have belief in you, you thrive, and you want to run through brick walls for that manager or that player or that captain, and that's the mentality and everything that I want at this football club. I want people to walk onto that pitch and never ever give up, regardless of the score.
And obviously, kind of first step into management here, what are you looking forward to most about being on that touchline, being a manager, if you're not playing?
Yeah, depends what sort of pre-season I have, I suppose. I don't know, I mean, I've recently stepped into the coaching side of it. Myself and Sean have set up our own academy, and although we only go up to sort of 12s, 13s, 14s, that buzz of seeing them go out there and perform, and you give them ideas and you give them opportunities, and they go and thrive on it, and to see them players play with a smile on their face and the enjoyment is the biggest thing. Now obviously you're going to be against, it's a completely different scenario in that sense. You challenge yourself to coach your players to the best of your ability, but you also test yourself against the man in the other dugout, and that's the real test. And I will work as hard as I possibly can to make sure that I am, what's the word? Ready. I will do my homework on every single team, every single player, and I will make sure that my players have their best ideas of how they can go and win the game. And you know, when you ask somebody to work as hard as they can, then there's no ceiling. You know, you just keep going and you keep going and you keep going. And like I say, for me, every training session, every match day will be a learning curve, but it'll only make me better as a coach and a manager moving forward.
And on a slightly lighter note, do you think you'll see yourself playing much this season, or?
Yeah, I mean, I think you can manage and you can be a leader on the pitch. You know, I mean, you know, look at the captains around every single football club, and they can be leaders. There's no reason why that you can't step out onto the pitch and do exactly the same. It's going to be something completely different, I must admit. You know, I've not come into that scenario before, but you know, I'll be using my experience and the contacts I have to, you know, to speak to players who've been in there, and the managers now are in that scenario, and just pick little ideas from them and you know, see what worked for them and what didn't work for them. But I'll be giving my all, whether I'm playing or whether I'm still on the side. You will see 100% from myself in everything that I do.
One of the things, Brad, that came to light, and you know, I was very confident in Garry and Sean to do this job, but you always get reassurance and you always do your due diligence. One of the things that came to light in speaking to Gareth Ainsworth, and he might be saying this about Garry, was that I asked him why is Garry successful, why was he a good part of that dressing room, why was he influential in the successful side. And it was that work ethic, and I guess a demonstration through leadership, through action, getting it done, and doing the professional things at training, the extras and the warming up, and those are things that young footballers, particularly in an age of Hollywood footballers and high-profile young footballers, one of the things they do admire most and respect is people doing it with them. So that really confirmed what I was thinking about the player-manager role for Garry, because rather than him sitting, in his suit on the sideline dictating to things and all that, I believe his strength will be, and Sean's as well, he's played a lot of football and done a lot of coaching, by demonstrating through the hard work ethic themselves. I think it's a little bit easier probably to lead for men of this ilk, to say, come in with me, get your hands dirty with me, and let me show you the way. And if Garry's tracking back when we're chasing a game with 5 minutes left to go, it's a fair bit easier for him to encourage other players that he's coaching and managing to do the same. So I think it's a great question. I think that's an important part of it, is having the boots and all, do as I do, not as I say sort of approach to leadership, and that's something I believe firmly in, and I think that'll be a strength of both of them.
This is probably a question for all three, obviously early days, but what can we expect in terms of within the transfer market? Is it going to be predominantly kind of loan signings along that approach again this season?
We talked long about it, because number one, the main thing is that the boys know what they're coming into, and they know what they've got and the resources to work with. And we're in full agreement that we've got enough and plenty to have a good go at it. It'll be a very mixed side of balance. We've made no secret. We've built some very strong relationships with some of the best academies in the north of England, and we fully intend to utilise the best we can of that loan market, probably all 6 potential loanees that you can have. We've done a lot of work in the closed season in making sure that we get the pick of the cream of those young players, because not every young under-23 player is suitable for our level. So definitely Brad will be working on that. There is a core then of players that need to be added to the 3 that we mentioned earlier who are already contracted. Garry mentioned the amount of games he's played in the EFL in the last 5 years. That's a wonderful player pool in terms of people he's worked with, against and been with, in terms of being able to make a call. He knows what's good and bad in a player, and he knows the type that he can ring, so that'll be a big feature of putting the squad together. We have a very busy, which we're releasing later this week, a very busy closed season in terms of friendlies, pre-season friendlies. I think it's really important. We're a small club. We can't have big 11-on-11 battles on the training pitch in summertime. We need to play football. And so we've got a really great mixed, a very busy summer season of EFL clubs and some non-league clubs that Garry and Sean will be utilising, and they'll need those, really just to finalise their squad towards the back end of July in terms of getting a good look at players. I think that's fair for trialists and players we're looking at. The guys might talk further to it, but it's very difficult to judge someone and give them an opportunity on the training pitch all the time if you're not seeing them in enough 90-minute games. I don't think it's perhaps fair on people that we're looking at either. So it'll be a very busy summer in putting that together, but the work started on that, Brad, and it'll be a very busy few weeks for that. What do you think on that, mate?
Yeah, I mean, as soon as Damian came to me with the opportunity, my head started going straight away. Now, like you alluded to, I've played a lot of games. I've played with young professionals who've dropped out of Football League, but I've got Football League experience, who I know would come in and do a really good job for this football club. I've touched bases with a few of them already. I'm hoping that with my enthusiasm and the fact that they want to come and play for me would be hopefully something that we can push forward sooner rather than later, because you want to have a core sort of team. Like you say, you can't just batter the same players every single pre-season game, because it doesn't work like that. your risk injury side of things. So we'll be looking at getting people in, trialists, you know, and potential signings moving forward. So that's where the hard work starts. It's putting together that kind of, you know, calling on the networks of people that I know, you know, people, agents and people like that who have players who might want to have a look at, and you know, that's what it's all about. I've been in squads where players have come in. I'd like to use Luke O'Neill as a prime example of somebody who came to Wycombe on trial. He'd been released from Watford, came in, such a great boy, showed every characteristic you want from a young footballer, a desire, a hunger to stay behind and do extras. He's now playing in Sunderland's first team week in, week out, and that's coming from somebody who had no club in the summer. So that's what I'll be looking for. I'll be looking for players to come in and show me that they want to play football first and foremost, and they've got a desire to. It might be a step back for some players, but I've done it myself. Sometimes you have to take backwards and sideways steps to push you on to the next level, and that's what I'll be looking for people to come and show that desire to want to come and play and get themselves, like Damian said before, use Bradford Park Avenue as a stepping stone, but allow us to mould you into a better player and give you the characteristics that footballer needs to move on, and I'm a prime example of someone who knows what that's about, and that's what I can tap into hopefully with these young players who will come in and walk through the door.
I mean, we've got Alex Hurst, Lewis Knight, as you said, Connor Branson. I wouldn't speak for those players, but I would imagine all of them would have aspiration to have a crack at the league at some stage, and I think they deserve that. To have them work with someone who's literally just stepped out and was there this time last year and amongst it with those contacts. I'm really excited to be able to deliver that for those players, for Garry to get to know them, and use Luke as an example up there at Sunderland. And you know, Luke was well out of his comfort zone when he first came from Watford to Wycombe. I think it's fair to say Garry was one of those senior players who embraced him and saw that he needed some comfort and some direction and some help, and it wasn't long before he was thriving. And that sort of leadership is something I'm really excited to provide. You know, if Lewis Knight can embrace that and really crack on, there'll be no one happier than myself and the directors of the club, and I think all Bradford Park Avenue fans, to have a mentor like Garry to help you achieve that, and that goes for all of our players. As I said, we're quite happy to be a development club. You've got to move players, love them, and then see them go on to better things if that's what's going to happen. Because if that's happening, our club's winning a lot of football games, you know, and then that's what we're all here to do. Garry mentioned the amount of games he's played in the EFL in the last 5 years. That's a wonderful player pool in terms of people he's worked with, against, and been with. In terms of being able to make a call, he knows what's good and bad in a player, and he knows the type that he can ring. So that'll be a big feature of putting the squad together. We have a very busy, which we're releasing later this week, a very busy closed season in terms of friendlies, pre-season friendlies. I think it's really important. We're a small club. We can't have big 11 on 11 battles on the training pitch in summertime. We need to play football. And so we've got a really great mixed, a very busy summer season of EFL clubs and some non-league clubs that Garry and Sean will be utilising, and they'll need those, really just to finalise their squad towards the back end of July in terms of getting a good look at players. I think that's fair for trialists and players we're looking at. The guys might talk further to it, but it's very difficult to judge someone and give them an opportunity on the training pitch all the time if you're not seeing them in enough 90-minute games. I don't think it's perhaps fair on people that we're looking at either. So it'll be a very busy summer in putting that together, but the work started on that, Brad, and it'll be a very busy few weeks for that. What do you think on that, mate?
Yeah, I mean, as soon as Damian came to me with the opportunity, my head started going straight away. Now, like you alluded to, I've played a lot of games. I've played with young professionals who've dropped out of Football League, but I've got Football League experience, who I know would come in and do a really good job for this football club. I've touched bases with a few of them already. I'm hoping that with my enthusiasm and the fact that they want to come and play for me would be hopefully something that we can push forward sooner rather than later, because you want to have a core sort of team. Like you say, you can't just batter the same players every single pre-season game, because it doesn't work like that. You risk injury side of things. So we'll be looking at getting people in, trialists, and potential signings moving forward. So that's where the hard work starts. It's putting together that kind of, calling on the networks of people that I know, people, agents and people like that who have players who might want to have a look at, that's what it's all about. I've been in squads where players have come in. I'd like to use Luke O'Neill as a prime example of somebody who came to Wycombe on trial. He'd been released from Watford, came in, such a great boy, showed every characteristic you want from a young footballer, a desire, a hunger to stay behind and do extras. He's now playing in Sunderland's first team week in, week out, and that's coming from somebody who had no club in the summer. So that's what I'll be looking for. I'll be looking for players to come in and show me that they want to play football first and foremost, and they've got a desire to. It might be a step back for some players, but I've done it myself. Sometimes you have to take backward and sideways steps to push you on to the next level, and that's what I'll be looking for people to come and show that desire to want to come and play and get themselves, like Damian said before, use Bradford Park Avenue as a stepping stone, but allow us to mould you into a better player and give you the characteristics that footballer needs to move on, and I'm a prime example of someone who knows what that's about, and that's what I can tap into hopefully with these young players who will come in and walk through the door.
I mean, we've got Alex Hurst, Lewis Knight, as you said, Connor Branson. I wouldn't speak for those players, but I would imagine all of them would have aspiration to have a crack at the league at some stage, and I think they deserve that. To have them work with someone who's literally just stepped out and was there this time last year and amongst it with those contacts. I'm really excited to be able to deliver that for those players, for Garry to get to know them, and to use Luke as an example up there at Sunderland. And Luke was well out of his comfort zone when he first came from Watford to Wycombe. I think it's fair to say Garry was one of those senior players who embraced him and saw that he needed some comfort and some direction and some help. And it wasn't long before he was thriving, and that sort of leadership is something I'm really excited to provide. If Lewis Knight can embrace that and really crack on, there'll be no one happier than myself and the directors of the club, and I think all Bradford Park Avenue fans, to have a mentor like Garry to help you achieve that, and that goes for all the players. As I said, we're quite happy to be a development club. You've got to move players, love them, and then see them go on to better things if that's what's going to happen. Because if that's happening, our club's winning a lot of football games, and then that's what we're all here to do.
And you mentioned youngsters, kind of transfers and loan signings and things like that. It might be unfair to ask, but obviously you've got Jake Beasley, who really performed well last season, proved himself in the league. Obviously it remains to be seen if he would fit the kind of new style, and obviously Charlie Andrew in net was an absolute hero at times. Are those two kind of players, are they on any lists at all, or is it new era?
Yeah, look, I mean, our recruitment as a club doesn't start today with Garry's arrival. I mean, we and both of those players we've spoken about. Without saying too much, I think it's fair to say that, in credit to Jake, I think he's fine Salford have an opinion of him and featuring in the league this year. They've got my number if that changes, and we've made it very clear that we've made an offer to take Jake back. Absolutely, we're an ambitious club. People that do a job would do that, but again, if his future is up that level, we're not going to be a club to stand in his way, obviously. We wish him all the best. Our job is to find the next one, and the next one, and the next one, and reap the rewards from that as a club. Thanks very much, folks. Appreciate that.